Hello, class. I want to communicate with you, answer any questions you may have, anything that I need to know and write down and address. I'd like to tackle that. But in case you, and obviously you'll get extra credit points. But please recall, as you may be aware, last week, this is the second time I did that, and I apologize. You and my second school, right? You started the same week as another school, another community college nearby. And so I literally do the same, it's the exact same class, just with a different title or different number identifying it. And so I do the same thing for both, right? As all instructors that I know of do as well. What I've forgotten twice is that you guys had spring break and it put you guys a week behind. And so I do a Zoom meeting at 10:30 in the morning, the mornings that I have a Zoom meeting with you at the other school. And so I simply get into the habit of replicating what I did that morning in the afternoon for you, and not realizing on two occasions that you guys are a week and hence a subject and assignment behind the other class. So last week, right, I did this week's assignment. I covered it in our Zoom concerning the alleged reasons for the Civil War, right? We did mainly just court versus revisionist history. So that has already prepped you if you were present at the meeting, if you've watched the Zoom video, it should, somewhat quasi sufficiently equip you to do fine on this week's assignment. But that means I didn't cover the assignment you were supposed to have been on, which was antebellum westward expansion, which is just absolutely just riddled with information. So I hope you'll forgive me, but it was already late in the week when I realized such, and I triaged. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and give them a video from last week to the other school and let them watch that instead. So on your last week's assignment with the antebellum westward expansion, I'm going to grade you more leniently than usual on that one, okay? But hopefully that you were able to catch the video, the Zoom video put on modules in Canvas for your clarification and to give you some historical context, right? So actually, before we get into any kind of questions you have pertaining to any facet of the class, does anybody have any questions as far as last week and excuse me, the assignment? Anything that was unclear to you as far as the data that you'd like me to elaborate upon, content-wise or assignment-wise, for that matter, with antebellum westward expansion? All right, you sure?
So there's a video for that one and for the Civil War, both
There is.
reasons for the Civil War. I missed last week, so I'm trying to get it
Yes,
straight.
Karen. Yeah, and I'm sorry. What the very least I should have done was send out an announcement clarifying the situation. So again, I'm going to keep all that under consideration. I stand by my word that anytime that I am derelict of my duty, I will go above and beyond uh, to ensure that you guys don't pay for it. And so, if anything, I'll cut you extra slack when I do such. So I'll take that antebellum westward expansion assignment late. I'll go easy on it with the grades. I'll try to put extra elaboration on that topic, not only now, if you have any specific questions, but also when we cover test 3, right? Because I always do that. I'll go over the test with you the week that you take it, and I will put extra attention on that subject. I'm so sorry, and it's such a rich subject in data. You know, the Mexican loss of Texas, the Mexican American War, the gold rush, the overland trails, the fur trading frenzy of the 1820s. I mean, my goodness, Turner's thesis, all of that. So, yeah. So, like I said, I will do everything in my power to do that. I still need to put up, I'm going to put up all, and I keep saying that, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to make sure that all the quizzes are put up, and you have until the very end of the semester to do them. Okay. It's the very least I can do. Um, let's see here. Please remember though, this third test, right? Also, let me note that as well. I'm going to put test 3 up. Please remember, just like test 2, it's last semester's test. And so sometimes I'll make cosmetic changes. I'll change a question or two. If in the event of doing it, I'll switch the test and I'll give you an announcement. I'll tell you which specific numbers I changed, but it'll be largely superficial. I won't reinvent the wheel. So it'll pretty much be the test that you're going to have, the one that I will post today, okay, from last semester. Thank you so much for your patience. Um, and so again, before like general questions, does anybody want me to elaborate on anything specifically regarding last week's assignment that I simply put a video up for rather than have a interactive Zoom with you on? I need to get all the names. Sorry, I thought I had all the names, but the number does not correspond with the number of names I have. Here we go.
I'm just trying to clarify. We haven't gone over test 3 yet, right?
No, we have not. Yeah, so like the first 2 tests, right? I'll do that the week of the test, if you don't mind. But again, anything that you and I will post that today, okay? But any questions you have, obviously before seeing the test, you're like, well, how can I have a question if you haven't revealed the test yet? But especially, like I said, with Antebellum America, any questions I'll be happy to elaborate on. I would like to think, it technically, in the event of there not being much interaction and questions with my lecture, on the one hand, it should be just about as good putting that video up of another class, but the exact same topic, pertinent to the exact same test. But then again, it's never quite the same. Not having the opportunity to interact and ask me questions and so forth. Okay, now I have all your names. So any questions on Antebellum westward expansion, the assignment of last week? All right. So again, when I cover test 3, that which is on test 3, pertinent to that topic, I will gladly elaborate upon when we get to that. Okay, when we cover test 3. As far as this week, it is the coming of the Civil War, and I just put it in broad categories. Right. There are so many interpretations as to what caused the Civil War. Remember, an historian, right? When it gets into causation, that's about as subjective as it gets, as far as what caused something to happen. That's very argumentative. So historians are going to bring their preconceptions, their assumptions to the table, and it's going to dictate what facts they select, how they interpret those facts, how they present them, right? And so I just put it in 2 broad categories, especially for a lower division class. Not in any kind of condescending way, but it's just too many rabbit holes to jump into, too many numbers to cover if I tried to do it that way. So at any rate, I just put them under 2 umbrellas, and one was hopefully it's clear on the on last week's Zoom, but just kind of an overall gist is one is the romantic vision we received oftentimes in grade school, right? And that is that we fought a crusade, a moral crusade to end slavery, to live up to the rhetoric of the quote revolution, right? That all men are created equal, popular sovereignty, political and social, political equality and social justice for everyone. So you have a pantheon of heroes in the form of the abolitionist in particular, You have the story of character development, kind of like in a novel of Abraham Lincoln, how he he kind of evolves from being indifferent toward slavery, toward taking a stand for abolitionists, toward taking a stand against the spreading of slavery anywhere else westwardly, to finally taking a stand against slavery everywhere, including in the states where it's already been sanctioned. And so that's court history. So I try to provide a picture of an anomalous generation, right, out of the ordinary, that they are exceptionally idealistic. They have a strong moral compass and sense of right and wrong. They agitate in a positive way, right? They force the country to come to terms with slavery and to have discourse on that topic, the ultimate taboo that you were not supposed to even bring up for a couple generations. And yeah, so that's what you're looking for with number one. And number two, right, is just revisionist broadly, right? They revise that court image of the Civil War, that romantic image. And so with revisionist, they're going to contend, right, that it was a lot messier than that the motives were more ulterior and materialistic on behalf of the North and the Republican Party, right? That the abolitionists were kind of, just a small minority, even in the North, hated even in the North, and that this was not a crusade, that it was more about power and about economics, etc. So then in trying to prove that, right, you look at the Republican Party. They simply took a stand that slavery was not to spread anywhere else to the West, right? But they didn't take the stand in their original platform that they were willing to end slavery where it was already sanctioned in the established states, right? But that they could only prohibit it in the Western territories that had been grabbed from Mexico and in the Louisiana Purchase prior to that, right? They have a Hamiltonian concern. They want a vision of America that's industrialized, commercialized, urbanized, right? And so then you have the faction thesis. You think about all these new Western territories that are going to become states, right? They're going to have 2 senators, no matter what, and 1 rep for every 30,000 civilians. And the idea is, right, is that people are primarily, this is a cynical assumption, but people are primarily led by self-interest. What benefits them as a demographic, what they do for a living, what their job entails. They're going to look out for their own self-interest. And so hence the bourgeois, the people of the city, right, in the Northeast, and that gravitated to the Republican Party, they wanted allies. They wanted twins, if you will, in the West. They wanted an area in which it would become commercialized, have free labor and factories, et cetera, right? Because then in future generations, whatever's good for them in the East Coast as Republicans will be good for their twins in the West, having a like-minded economy, right? And having allies in Congress, that gives you power, right? Because you have a numerical majority, you get to pass the laws of the country. And so you look for evidence of racism in the North, right? I put in there on number 2 that of 19 northern states, only 5 offered some opportunities and some citizenship rights to some African-American men. That's a pretty pitiful record. You look at the draft riots, right? And you look at the segregation and the hesitance to use Black troops, all of those tying in to an accusation that maybe this wasn't a crusade. Maybe this was about power. Maybe it was simply a war of secession, as the Crittenden-Johnson resolution stated early in the war. This war is not about slavery. This war is about keeping the Southern states from seceding from the country, right? And that eventually emancipation, by revisionist historians like Howard Zinn, they contend it eventually became convenient for the North. And then and only then did they emancipate the slaves. And largely, right, psychologically, you have quotes from Ulysses S. Grant, George Julian, Lincoln himself, saying that, arming the, quote, Negro men would frighten the white South out of their shoes, right? That they would, it would have a psychological effect. It would have a divide and conquer effect in encouraging the slaves to rebel and run away and join the Union Army to help fight for their freedom. etc. So hence ulterior motives, right? Perhaps out of desperation, etc. And so those are the two broad categories that I have this week's assignment under. And I like to think that I delved into it more specifically than that in the video. If you'll please take a look at that video. So any questions on this week's assignment? All right, if in the future minutes, if something pops up in your head, feel free to interject. Okay, I have no problem with that. And so in the meantime, we'll go ahead and move on to more generally asked questions. Is there anything that I'm omitting that I need to be brought to my attention? Any questions about the class itself, the assignments, the quizzes, test 3, what have you? Any comments or questions from anybody?
We just have one more quiz coming up.
Yeah,
Or is that next?
yeah, you have 6 total, right?
Mhm.
And I have to look, Karen, at quiz 2. I don't remember if it was you or my other school, but I failed to put in quiz 2, and so I basically concluded that I'm going to give everybody a 25 out of 25 on quiz 2. So if you don't see quiz 2 on under quizzes, I'm not going to bother with it.
Oh, I think it's there.
Oh, it's there. Okay. Okay.
I think
Sorry.
3 and 5 were the ones that are waiting till the end of the semester.
You got it, hon. Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, I will put those up shortly. Okay.
So
And
just 6 will be coming up.
absolutely. And I'll have all of them, 3, 5, and 6. I'll have all of them due at the end of the semester. That's the least I can do. Give you the maximum amount of time that's left for my failure to have posted them by now. Well, I'm kind of learning as I go along with COVID, and I thought it might be confusing and putting all the quizzes up right at the outset, but I have come to the conclusion that I disagree with that premise now. I should have put all of them at the very beginning and made the due date clear on all of them as posted, and I apologize for that. All right. Any other questions? Because like I said, you already have a video from last week for this week's assignment. I accidentally covered it last week instead of today, having forgotten that you had a spring break and you were 1 week behind my other class. So any other questions? All right. Do you guys feel, how many of you, can I get like a thumbs up or something? Have some of you already watched the video for this week's assignment on the alleged causes of the Civil War? That's all right if you haven't. All right. But like I said, I did cover it last week. All right, Irina. Not yet. That's okay. That's okay. You have till Sunday night. All right. But recall, right, that it is on there. They're together when you go under modules. Good. Right. But that's great that you did. When you go to modules, they're together initially, but then when you hit on it, they become 2 separate links. All right, no problem. And Mom, I appreciate your honesty. So yeah, go ahead and please watch that video on the alleged causes of the Civil War. I cover that which I did, today, but in better detail. All right. Okay, so since we're ahead of schedule, all right, and like I said, I've covered this week's assignment last week, and the video's already posted. We're ahead of schedule, and so I have nothing else to share for this Zoom meeting on account of that mistake and having already covered this topic. All right, so if there aren't any other questions, we're going to call it quits and have just a quick and easy Zoom meeting this week. I have the 10 of your names. You'll certainly get credit for this. I appreciate that. And what I'll probably do is last week, even though we covered the Civil War last week, is those who were present last week, I will ascribe those points to the antebellum westward expansion assignment, those extra credit points. And today, obviously, I'll ascribe to this week's assignment, the Civil War, the coming of the Civil War. Okay. So again, feel free to Canvas message me if you have any questions or concerns. Okay. All right. Thank you, Claire. All right. I appreciate your attentiveness. I enjoy giving you these extra credit points. That's the least you deserve for being attentive and joining me. I really appreciate it. But if there aren't any other questions, you guys, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. Okay. Kind of quick and easy one. Again, because we're ahead of schedule and I've covered this. No, thank you, Anmol. All right. You guys have a great day. Have a great week. Be sure to submit this as usual. No problem, Karen. My pleasure. By Sunday night. Okay. And thank you. Thank you. Okay. And also, when I put the quizzes up, I will also give an announcement to let everybody know that they're there. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Have a good week. Okay. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, everyone. Take care.